Okay, so get this. A Vietnamese automaker is planning what you could almost call a full-scale invasion of the Indian electric vehicle market. But hold on, because this isn't just about selling a few cars. We're about to dive deep into VinFast's master plan. And let me tell you, it's a wild story of insane ambition, building an entire ecosystem from scratch, and a massive, high-stakes bet on the future of how we all get around. Which brings us to, the billion-dollar question, right? For a market as massive and just hacked as India's, how on earth does a brand new player even start to compete in the EV race? I mean, forget winning it for a second. How do you even get a foot in the door? Well, it turns out Vietnam's VinFast thinks they have the answer. And you've got to understand, this isn't just some business plans sketched on a napkin. It's a full-blown master plan, and it goes way, way beyond what you're probably thinking. All right, so let's start at the beginning. Section 1, VinFast arrives. And seriously, if you're thinking, oh, just another car company, well, you are definitely in for a surprise. Their story is so much bigger than that. So when VinFast first rolled out their electric cars back in 2025, pretty much everyone just saw them as another premium brand trying to make a splash. But that was just their opening move. The reality is something way more ambitious, a full-scale ecosystem strategy. Think about that. They don't just want to build vehicles. They want to build the entire world around those vehicles. It's like they're not just playing the game, they're trying to change the rules completely. And that brings us to their next move, which is, honestly, it's probably their most audacious one yet. They're going after two-wheelers. Now, you have to realize, in India, the electric scooter market is an absolute battlefield. You've got legacy giants, super agile startups, all of them fighting tooth and nail for every inch of market share. So for VinFast to jump into this, it's a really bold play. I mean, just look at this timeline. They dropped their cars in 2025, and they're not even stopping to catch their breath. By the second quarter of FY 2026, they're already planning to push out electric scooters. This isn't some slow, careful rollout. Nope, this is a full-on sprint. So what's their weapon of choice going to be? Well, they're looking at tweaking some of their existing models, like the Clara, Evo, and Vero for the Indian roads. But an entirely new product designed from the ground up, that's also a real possibility. And here's the really interesting part. They're going to launch these scooters under a whole new sub-brand, a fresh identity, basically, to grab everyone's attention. And look, they're not just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. You can see it in this quote from their Asia CEO, Pham Son Chao. He's making it super clear that they're taking a methodical, research-first approach. They're absolutely doing their homework, talking to partners, and running all the studies to make sure they nail the launch. But let's be real here. This is not going to be a walk in the park. Not at all. They are going head-to-head with absolute giants like Bajaj. We're talking decades of dominance. Then you've got EV pioneers like TVS and the super tech-focused innovators at Ather. VinFast is definitely the new kid on the block, the underdog here. But they're betting big that their secret weapon, that whole ecosystem plan, is going to be the thing that gives them the edge. And that idea of an ecosystem, that's the perfect segue. Let's get into Section 3 and really unpack what this bigger picture looks like. Because like we've been saying, this whole thing was never, ever just about selling cars and scooters. Exactly. It's so much more than just vehicles. The cars, the scooters, that's just the stuff you see on the surface, the tip of the iceberg. What's really going on underneath is a plan that is so much more ambitious. They're trying to reshape the entire transportation landscape. Okay, so here it is, the core of the strategy. Vingroup, that's VinFast's parent company, is building this ecosystem on three main pillars. First, a huge integrated charging network. Second, their very own ride-hailing service. And third, get this, a fleet of electric buses for public transit. See, this isn't about selling you a car. This is a bid to control every single piece of the electric mobility puzzle. Now, having a crazy ambitious plan is one thing, but actually pulling it off, that's everything. So let's jump to Section 4 and see exactly how they're taking this vision and turning it into action on the ground. First off, they're smart enough to know they can't do this alone. A huge piece of their strategy is locking in powerful local partnerships. Just think about this for a second. A potential tie-up with a giant like Tata to build out a shared charging network, that's not just a step forward, that would be a complete game changer. And they are moving fast on the retail front. 35. That's how many dealerships they want up and running by the end of this year alone. In a market like India, where having a physical showroom is still so important, that number sends a really clear message. They are aggressive and they are committed. And we're not just talking about the big metro areas. This network is planned to cover 60 cities. That means they're pushing deep into those Tier 2 and Tier 3 markets. And that is a really smart strategic move, because that's where the next big wave of EV buyers is expected to come from. Okay, and what about those electric buses we mentioned? Well, they're not just a concept. They're taking this straight to the top. Senior execs are already having serious discussions with key state governments. We're talking Maharashtra, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh. The goal? To get their e-buses integrated into public transport. If they pull this off, it could literally revolutionize how millions of people move around in cities. All right, so let's tie all of these threads together. For our final section, let's tackle the really big question here. What could this all-in-one strategy actually mean for the future of India's roads? When you boil it all down, this is their master plan. It's like a four-pronged attack on the Indian market. You've got personal mobility with cars and scooters. You've got public transport with their buses. You've got shared mobility with ride-hailing. And the glue holding it all together, that massive charging infrastructure. They are, quite literally, leaving no stone unturned. And if there's one thing you take away from all this, it should be this. VinFast isn't just here to sell a product. They are trying to build an entire transportation ecosystem. They want to be involved in everything, from the car you own, to the bus you take, to the charger you plug into. I mean, this has to be one of the boldest, most audacious market entry plays we have ever seen. It is a massive, high-stakes gamble, but the payoff could be just as massive. Which leaves us with one final huge question. Could VinFast's all-in-one strategy be the thing that finally reshapes India's entire electric future?